Tipperary are going to be against Waterford at home this weekend. A couple of comments coming in, a little bit of sneeriness to them. Zed Leplin says, can't wait for Tipperary to bang in 4 goals a game regularly. Only team that could potentially stop Limerick. No need for Tip to put out a good team this week, says Sean O'Sullivan. Tipper back, so should win handy. You could be right, Zed. So far, all Tip have been for Limerick is target practice and trying young lads, but anything is possible. There's talk of Davy looking to give Tip a good scalding this weekend, says TB Street. So where do you fall on it when it comes to this game?
I think it's probably the most interesting hurling game of the weekend. For different elements to it, like straight up, like the Liam Cahill factor is pretty fascinating, you know. Like aside from the fact that he's back involved at Tipperary, and that's the, you know, maybe a bit delayed more than Tipperary fans kind of wanted, him kind of getting the senior job after all the success he'd had at various underage levels, how well he kind of knows the Waterford players. I'm not sure off the top of my head when these are playing each other in championship, but it will be kind of an interesting one to kind of see in terms of kind of, I suppose, gauging the kind of relationship between the counties.
I'll ask you a question. When did Tipperary last beat Waterford in a league or championship match?
It's a loss last year, lost the Ireland quarterfinal 2021. Didn't play each other 2020, did they? 19? I think
it was 2020, so it was a league match in let me just check the date, March the 1st in 2020. And do you want to know who was man of the match that day? It's obviously, I'll say it with a tinge of sadness, Dylan Quirk scored 5 points from play. Right. He was absolutely brilliant that day. But it just kind of tells you that we're talking about 3 years, I think 5 competitive games in a row that Tipperary have come up short against Waterford. At the moment, Waterford have Tip's numbers, so Tipperary, like, it's quite important for a lot of reasons. Number one, Liam Cahill wants to get a victory. He doesn't want to lose, and, you know, the team that he's no longer with, you know, it didn't end perfectly. Let's call a spade a spade. Yeah. But also, Tipperary don't want to go in feeling very much like a team that's second best to Waterford based on all these results over the last few years.
Yeah, well, listen, absolutely, you're bang on there. I mean, that's another element, like the point I was making as regards the Cork Limerick thing. You know, psychologically at a certain point, you need to. I mean, that wasn't a record I was as aware of. Just looking actually at the last game in the Munster round robin is Tip Waterford the 28th of May in Thurles. So if you lost on Saturday night and then, like, say you were going into the last round and Tipperary needed something from it, you know, you don't want that kind of little maybe seed of doubt. Maybe it might even be in the players and it won't be spoken about, but in the crowd there might be that little edginess and a bit of anxiety about it, you know. So that is another aspect to it. Makeup of the teams, as I said, in terms of, you know, like Brian O'Mara, Gerard O'Connor on one side, the two Patrick Fitzgeralds, Ruben O'Halloran, kind of these kind of guys on the other side. And I'd say Davy is kind of looking forward to it in terms of he kind of had said he was pretty disappointed. I think he's quite fairly average, was that the word he used about the Antrim performance the last day? I think that was last week's the Dublin game. I think he was pretty happy with his team's kind of resilience in kind of getting back for a draw that game, but the fact that they didn't, considering the right cards, but the fact that they didn't win at home in Dungarvan, again, this won't be an issue for them come championship playing there, but it doesn't seem like either their 2 matches there so far in terms of performance-wise have been very satisfactory for them, you know, even though they haven't lost either of them, but I think that they'll be kind of looking forward to kind of playing, and that's another aspect of it. Like, it's strange, like for an away game for them, I think he'll be quite delighted that it's worked out this year in the league, that they're away to Tipperary, so that they can actually play them in Semple Stadium and get used to a venue where, like, let's face it, they're playing, I'm looking here, 23rd of April, they're playing Limerick in Semple Stadium. They play Clare there on the 13th of May, and then they have their last game. So 3 of their 4 months of championship games are going to be at the venue. So even that thing alone might be kind of a part of it. And the other one we obviously throw out is, like, you know, not just Liam Cahill going up against the Waterford angle, obviously Owen Kelly going up against Tipperary as well, you know. So, like,
and Tony Brown going up.
Exactly, yeah. Sorry, so, like, there's all those kind of aspects to it. It's the only televised game on, I think, on Saturday, 7:15 Saturday night, you know. So I think it's pretty interesting for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, Waterford beat Tip by 10 points in the league last year. That was quite the hammering, and 4 points in the Munster Championship. And Tip won't have the likes of Cahill Barrett available for a while. And, you know, nailing down Desi Hutchinson, for example, has been a big one the last few years. So will Conor McCarthy or Johnny Ryan get an opportunity to mark him? Maybe Brian O'Mara.
That's a good test now, isn't it? You know, I mean, like, you're really getting thrown in there for whatever. Maybe if you've been kind of ease into it in terms of it's the first real senior season for both, isn't it? I know they've been kind of maybe I played preseason games before, whatever. But yeah, this is a good step up now for them in terms of playing. If you're going up against someone like Hutchinson.
What do you think the situation is with Austin Gleeson so far? Because he's been used for a combined 69 minutes so far, plus injury time. So it's obviously a little bit more. But basically, he's come off the bench every game, give or take, with 20 minutes to go. He's actually the top scorer for Waterford, despite that. He has 15 points, 4 of those from play. The next is Stephen Bennett, who has 2-7, all from place balls. So straight away, you're getting a picture there of a team that's not exactly free scoring up front. Now, Mikey Kiley was red carded after 2 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever, and then suspended for the next game. He scored 4-1 in that Fitzgibbon Cup final. So obviously he's potentially a big scorer, and obviously Desi as well. But what do you make of the Austin Gleeson situation? What sort of message has been sent, if any at all, that he hasn't started any of these games?
I'm not sure. Well, I suppose when we don't know when we're inside not inside the camp, I'm not really sure. Is it a case of a message? I mean, I go back to the thing I said about now in round 4, getting a kind of a clearer idea of kind of teams makeup and all that. I mean, that 4-game window between 23rd of April and 28th of May, like that's when you're going to need Austin Gleeson firing from a Waterford aspect, you know. I can't see a situation where they're going to be able to kind of put their best foot forward without him in their team. Where Davy will look to employ him will be kind of interesting. You know, he does bring obviously a huge range of skills. There is various debates about his best positioning and what way kind of he will try to exploit that. But if you look at the overhaul in their team, let alone the 2017 All-Ireland, but even the 2020 All-Ireland team, you know, I think they do need kind of someone like him, obviously, kind of to the fore. So I think it'll be interesting to see if they start him now Saturday night and if they kind of go for it that way. I mean, at the moment, looking at the table, you think it's kind of between themselves, Tip Waterford, Kilkenny for those 2 spots. Dublin probably are going to need a win on Sunday, given that they're 3 points at the moment. You know, you think if they lose to Kilkenny on Sunday, they probably aren't going to be in the reckoning for the 2 spots from Group B. So, I mean, if Waterford have designs on reaching the league knockout stages, and I don't know how you manipulate this as a manager, like, do you start thinking we want to pull the handbrake up here, you know, and we kind of want to just ease off a little bit, but I would be very, very surprised if he's not a central part of their team and plans going forward. So I think maybe it might be just something as simple as kind of easing him back into it as the season has progressed, you know.
Yeah, it's funny enough that in this Division 1 Group B of Tipperary, Waterford, Kilkenny, Dublin, Antrim, Laois, that Darren Gleeson is the only manager here who's not in his first season. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. I suppose both Davy Fitz, all of these managers potentially, the 5 of the 6 that haven't had a season with these teams previously, they probably wouldn't mind having that league semi-final, just have a bit more kind of, I suppose, chance to road test their options heading into the championship.
Yeah, that's true. Like if you look at it from, it'd be 3 games in a row then, wouldn't it? You know, so yeah, I think the semi-finals are down for Saturday, the 25th. So you'd have a game this weekend, you'd have a game Patrick's Day weekend, and then you'd have the league semi-final the 25th of May. And maybe the 2 happiest managers might be the 2 managers that reach the league semi-final and then lose it. And then you have because there's a 2-week break between the league semi-finals and final, like if you lose the league semi-final, you have nearly a month then block of work to probably get a good base. I know there's this debate, what's better, 3 to 4 weeks. I think the consensus, as much as you can talk to people, it seems to be 3, is it? You know, you've kind of 1 week to recover, 1 week to kind of go flat out hard work before a match, and then kind of the last week kind of maybe tapering off and kind of building up to the game, you know. So yeah, I think maybe there could be a bit of a prize in the carrot there.
Yeah, is the word taper off used anywhere else better than in GA?
I'm trying to think of any other sport for you will be. I feel like it'll be kind of a Rugby World Cup thing ahead of the warm-ups or something like that. You know, there's something about tapering off, and there's probably some other word that I'm unfamiliar with in rugby, you know.
But I don't know if you can taper off while you're trying to get to the emotional pitch in rugby. So, you know, that's a hard one to juggle.